Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So using the file that I just sent, we're going to proceed. I'm going to show us how to load it, and then we'll go on to do all we need to do. Okay, so this is the interface you'll be seeing if you're just loading your Power BI. You can go to, so the file is an Excel workbook, so we'll be going to Excel workbook, and from wherever you've saved the file on your system, Mr. Andy, you can please drop your hands, you and Mr. Victor, so in case someone raised their hands, I will not be confused about it. So locate where you have the files saved. All right, thank you guys. Let's see, where do I have that file? Okay, so I'm going to select the file and then open it. So that's how you load the file to your Microsoft Power BI. That's how you load the file to your Microsoft Power BI. Now, our file has multiple sheets, okay? Our file has multiple worksheets, as we can see. Now, as much as possible, if you can, I would advise you to be walking along if you can. If you can't, please pay rapt attention. At any point where you're left behind, if you're working with us, if it's something you can skip, please just, let it go, and then you can bring us back to it later. But if it's something that you can't proceed without, please do well to raise a hand so I could attend to you. Now I have 5 sheets in my data, coffee names, so you can preview each of them. The customers data, the orders data, products, and roast names. So basically this is data for coffee sales that were made, right? Coffee orders that were made. But we also had information for each of the different products that are being sold by this coffee store, the name of each coffee type, and the roast type, okay? The roast color or something of that sort, right? So I said if you want to select the files to load, make sure you have them checked. Make sure you have them checked. And then if you want to load it straight to your Power BI, you can click on load. Or if you want to take it to your Power Query to transform or edit, you can click on transform data. Now, these data are all correlated, right? They are related to one another. So let's see that relationship. So we remember Power Query, guys. We still remember Power Query, one of the most beautiful tools in Excel. And I guess I've dropped a video on a project I did with data cleaning or data manipulation using Power Query. That should expose you more to how to use the tool. Of course, it's much more than what's in that video, but you can learn a lot from there. Now we have about 5 files. So basically the reason why you're loading to Power Query is if you have some transformations to do. For example, this row 1 is supposed to be the column names, right? It's supposed to be the column headers. But currently it's like a row of itself, so we want to correct that by using first row as headers. So you can see the option for use first row as headers here. So if I select that, it converts that to that. It's easy as that. Right? Please, is anybody walking alongside with me? Drop a reaction. If you're walking with me, or if you're walking with me while I'm on this, drop a reaction, let me know. Okay, beautiful. Okay, beautiful. So I have some persons with me. Okay. Now, for customers data, which is information about the customers, let's take a moment to understand what the variable. We've not done so much, Mr. Andy, so you can just load the file, take it to Power Query. You know how to do this part, so we are just here. Okay, so customer ID is the unique identifier of each customer. We have the customer name, email, phone number, address line, city, country, postcode. So if you're keen to attention, seeing some values to this side and seeing some values to this side should flag up some kind of warning in you, right? But the reason is because the postcodes of different nations or different regions differ, right? So this is how, if we filter for Ireland, let's see, you would see that this is how they look, okay? While for United States, you have them looking like this. So that's basically why we had that difference. United Kingdom was that, and then United States are in numbers. Okay, so that's not an error. That's not something we're cleaning. But you must understand what happens in your data sets. Loyalty card is that if that customer has a loyalty card, all right? Now, order ID, so each order, this is data on each order made. Now, you could see that certain orders are repeated. And this is because this order has multiple products being bought, okay? Different products being bought, but they all belong to the same order, okay? So we have order, the date it was ordered, the customer identification, so we can know which customer made the order. We also have quantity. So what's the quantity that the customer ordered, okay? But outside of that, we don't have much information like the price or the amount spent and so on and so forth. Now, in the products table, we have product ID, which will link us to the orders table. So the product ID give us information on the products being bought, which you can find in the product table, okay? And you have coffee type, roast type, the size of coffee bean, the unit price. So how much does each of these item cost? How much of each of these item, how much does it cost? And then what is the price per 100 gram? And what is the profit that's generated from each of these items? So that's the information on our products. And then finally, roast names, which give us information on the roast type from products. So you can see roast types LMD, which we don't know what they mean, but we can get those information from the roast names table. And same like the coffee names table, we want to use first row as headers. Okay, beautiful. So this is the only edit we are doing here. We are not really bothered with the blanks in emails and all this, but it's not going to affect us because it's not related to the analysis we want to use. You don't need people's email and phone number in the analysis, in most analysis you want to do. But for the sake of having a clean data and reminding us how to do one or two things on Power Query, I'm just going to highlight that column, go to replace values, select, and we want to replace the nulls. Want to replace the nulls with maybe a double dash as this. And meanwhile, we need to do this for the entire data set. And then let's do the same thing for phone number, replace values, null with double dash as well. So let's say those are the only edits we're concerned with. And we're done at this point, so we're going to head straight back to our Power Query, and it will take some seconds. Okay, so Notice you have all our tables on our data section. Notice we have all our tables. We have our visualization section. We have our report view, table view, model view, and DAX query view. Remember, our report view is where we're going to build our visuals. And on our table view is where we get to see our tables. Okay, so they're all here. Customers, orders, and so on and so forth. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go to my model view and establish, oh yeah, beautiful. So it's done that already. That there's a relationship between my tables. Now, this is one of the beautiful things about our BI tools. If we were working on this data on Excel, we would have had to manually define relationships between variables, maybe using XLOOKUP and all that to perform data consolidation. Now, Power BI automatically detected that there were relationships between variables. Those of us working with me, do you have exactly this on your systems? Do you have exactly this? Are you seeing some kind of network between your different variables? You can't find them. I hope you do. It's supposed to work seamlessly. But just in case you don't have that, Mr. Jackson, okay, you have your hands up.
Yes, please. I want to ensure that I'm following what you are doing very well. Initially, when we started, you used Power Query. Am I right?
Yes, when we started, we loaded the data to Power Query to do one or two edits there. And then we've now brought it back to Power BI.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank
You know it was Power BI we opened. And then when we opened Power BI, we now selected Excel workbook. So we'll go and look for that particular workbook that we want to load, right?
you. Yes,
And
sir.
then we took it to Power BI. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
So Excel is, Power BI has noticed that there are relationship between the columns in our data. So it's, you will see the one to asterisk, which is a one to many relationship. And the moment I move my cursor over it, you could see that it's even showing you the relationship, that there's a relationship between customer ID in both columns. Okay, and what it means by one to many is that one customer ID here, one to asterisk, right, means one to many. That one customer ID here appeared multiple times in this other table. No, you don't need to do anything, okay? You don't need to do anything. If you just open your model view, if you open your model view on this section, you're going to see that, okay? So you would not on your own have needed to do anything. It should just work on its own. Now, but for any reason it's not doing so, um, let me delete this relationship, okay? So let me show us how to build a relationship just in case you're not having that. Mr. MAD, you have your hands up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I wanted mentioning that for my coffee names is no doesn't have a relationship with products, unlike yours. But I believe you're about explaining that now.
Okay, beautiful. If you had coffee names like this, we you converted, did you do the use first row as header?
Yes, 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 I did.
Okay, okay, beautiful. So just in case you don't have that, um, now I know that the relationship, that customer ID here and customer ID here are related. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on customer ID and then drag it to this table, and then this window pops up that, oh, you want to create a new relationship. Okay, so basically that's it, right? Just pick the variable that exists in one and then drag it to the other to show that, okay, these two are correlated. All right. Now, if you had done this exactly this way that I did it, you will see that the customers, or one table is here and the other table is here. Now, I dragged from customers to others. So customers table is the first table, and then others is the second table. Okay? Now, the next thing you would have needed to do was to select what variable is common to the both of them. But if you do it using this route, it will automatically know that, oh, customer ID and customer ID was what you dragged. So in my case now, you can see that it's highlighting customer ID on both tables, just trying to let me know that, oh man, look, this is what it's about. Yeah. Now, the next thing is to establish what kind of relationship, what's the cardinality of the relationship. Okay. So now, customer's ID in the customer table will, of course, appear just once, because each customer information is, if the customer ID is a primary key identifier in that table. Okay, so but here now in the others table, we expect that customer ID will appear multiple times, because one customer could have bought multiple times or could have come on several days. All right, so the relationship here will be one to many. One meaning one on the customer's table, one time on the customer's table, or one particular customer ID here can or may appear multiple times on this other table. All right, so in your case, Mr. MAD, if you are dragging coffee type, if you're dragging coffee type to this coffee type here, it's going to be, this is going to be the first table, this is going to be the second table, and it will also be one to many as well, because the coffee types only appear once in the coffee names table, but they can appear multiple times in the product table. So you have different relationships here: one to many to many, one to one, and many to one. Okay, but we understand the relationship. If it's one to one, it means that a particular, or the values of this variable can only appear once here, and they can only appear once here as well. If it's many to one, it means that it can appear many times here, but it can only appear once here, and so on and so forth, basically. Cross filter direction, you don't need to bother about them. Just select single, since you are coming from here to here. Now, so if I save that my relationship, you could see that the connection has come back. Okay, so you should have all your tables connected. Now, what's the advantage of having this? What's the advantage of having this? Now, let me pick a visual, and let me show something. Okay, no, let me do something. I'll come back to that. I am going ahead of myself. The next thing I want to do is I want to complete my orders table. For example, from my products table, I have information on profit, on size, on unit price, and all the rest. Okay. Now, I don't have a problem. Okay. Let me do what I needed to show us to help us. Now, if in coffee names, I go ahead and, or in this dashboard, I go ahead and select, I go and select roast type. So I select name in roast names. Okay. I can go to another table. I can go to another table and select a variable, for example, profit. Okay. Now, because there was an existing relationship between both tables, I could draw values from multiple tables to a particular chart. If there was no relationship between products and roast names, if I had clicked these two, I would not be having this as my result, because there's no relationship between profit here and the roast names. That's why those relationships are important. So take note. All right. Now, if I maybe wanted to see, so I didn't need to, what I was trying to say is I didn't need to create a column for profit generated in my orders table. I didn't really need to do that. Okay, so it's not necessary, right? They were different. So I didn't need to have said create a profit. What I mean is I didn't need to create a profit column here in this particular table because there's a way to relate them. However, there is something I want to do, which is that in my products table, we have unit price, which is the price for one item. So for this particular product, AL 0.2, the price of one of those items is 3.885, while the profit is 0.34. In my orders table, I would love to know how much did each person spend. So I want to create a column, not for unit price, because unit price already exists in the other table, but I want to create a column for maybe cost price, total price, which will be unit price times quantity. Okay, and I would love to do the same thing for profit, maybe total profit, which will be profit times quantity, because those information on our products table were unit prices or unit profits. Okay, so if I want to do that, I want to come to where's that option now? I want to create a new measure or a new column. I want to create a new column, and I can insert the name of that column, whatever it is I want it to be. But the important thing is knowing the formula to use. Okay, so what I want to do is quantity. So I just tried to type quantity. So what this means is that there's a variable called quantity in the table orders. There is a variable called quantity in the table orders. And I want to multiply it by unit price, right? I want to multiply it by unit price, but that's not coming up, right? Let me see, price. That's not coming up. It's not going to work in that way. Let me use products. It's not going to work in that way because I can't do that kind of multiplication between multiple tables like that. For me to do that, I'm going to use the related function. Then I can now be able to point out what other variable, right, that is outside of this table. Okay, let me recap that again. Okay, maybe I didn't do a good job explaining the first time. Now, because the quantity variable is in this table, it would be easy to call up. And what other variable were there? I didn't want to click this, but it's going to create a column. That's the problem. Well, let me just check something. Okay, unit price. So let's come back here. You could see that unit price is not really popping up because it's not available in this column, in this table. If I were to do product ID, you could see that product ID is here because it's available in this table. So for me to do that, because it's on another table, I'm going to use the related function, the DAX function, to tell it that, oh, see, I want to multiply this with another table, with another variable in another table that is related to this. Okay, so I'm now going to do for unit price. Okay, I'm not going to do for unit price, and then I'm going to press enter. Okay, so now I have the total price for each order, not for products now, for each order that was made, the total price for each order. And I could rename it as, let me say, I want to call it cost price. Okay, let me do another one with profit so we'll understand. So I'm clicking on new column. I'm creating a new column, and I could decide to rename it as total profit. You must take note that the order in which variables are written is important. Okay, it will be very poor of me seeing order ID capital letter O, capital letter O, capital letter D for order date, customer ID starting, and then I now come and start creating a new variable with all lower caps. That's very wrong. Okay, that's not consistent. So we want to do the same. We want to do the same thing of quantity times we say related, and we are doing quantity times profit. Close bracket, enter total profit, and we now have two columns, cost price and total profit, that we've created. And you could see that they were created by a formula with the icons that we have here. Now, before we also proceed, I showed us last week for the customers data, we could add a location to our countries or our geographical data. So I'm selecting country, and I'm going to data category on these three dots, and I'm changing that to country. I could do the same thing for city. Hit on the three dots and then change that to a city. Okay, now these are not compulsory, but you could go ahead and do that just to help you for maps and all that. All right, fine. So now let's come back to our dashboard. Before you begin building, before you begin creating your visuals and all that, you must realize that there must be a metric you're trying to reveal with your data. There must be a metric, like an information you're trying to reveal with your data. You're not just in the business of wanting to you're not just in the business of wanting to plot something, right? What insights are you trying to reveal? What insights are you trying to reveal? It's very important. Okay, guys? What insights are you trying to reveal is very important in whatever analysis you're doing. You can't just jump up and begin to start building visuals like that. What is the aim of your visualization? What insight are you trying to reveal? Okay? All those are key factors that affect what you want to do, right? So in this case, we just want to give a general review of sales record. In this case, we just want to give a review of sales record. That's what we want to do, okay? So that's going to inform the kind of charts I use or what I'm focusing on in my visualization. All right? I just needed to make that clear. So